Well, here's an exciting update. While we're all sitting at home in the lockdown, albeit hopefully coming to an end, someone has decided just to get in a boat and row the Atlantic, basically. Well, row across the sea. It's a 4,000-mile challenge. Just sounds amazing. Lucy is now joining us. This is, by the way, about Andrew, who we all know very well, who he showed me the boat, Lucy, some time ago, and then next minute he's gone. I don't know what happened. He didn't decide to do any sort of big send-off?
No, he set off from the Isle of Man on the 14th of November, and then was waiting there for a long time. He was hoping to get a good weather window to set off, and I think he got so fed up that he finally set off on the 8th of December from Portugal to head down to the Canary Islands, and I think all his focus was on that part of the journey rather than sort of telling anybody about what his latest plans were. So that was sort of why
he just went.
We heard nothing for a while. Yeah,
he's a great guy. I mean, he's doing this for some great charities here in the Isle of Man, but it's still an amazing feat. It is 4,000 miles he's going to have to row, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, roughly.
Have you had much contact? Because I mean, I know these days there are satellite phones and things, but it's still pretty tricky, is it?
Yeah, he tends to call me about once a week, but that's very weather dependent because he has to be out on the deck to be able to use the cabin, to be able to use the satellite phone. So when the weather's rough and he has to be stuck in the cabin, he can't use the phone at all, which is sort of, it's when you want to hear from him the most is when you don't.
What have the conditions been like so far? I mean, are you allowed to use any sort of sail, or you go row all the time, or what happens?
He's had quite a tough time, actually, to be honest. His original plan was, when he left Portugal, he was planning to go west straight away, but the wind just kept on blowing him sort of back in. So he actually only sort of headed straight south for a long time. And there were times when he was worried that he would get blown onto the coast of Africa, and his batteries have been drained through using a chart plotter where he can see other boats. So he was sort of learning and getting to know the boat for a long time, whilst sort of having a hard time with the weather. And then he had about a week of being stuck in the cabin at the beginning of January, I think. As he sort of approached the Canary Islands, the weather was so bad, the wind was so strong that he had to deploy a parachute anchor and just sit in the cabin for about a week, and then he was worried about being blown onto the coast of the Canary Islands. And his original plan had been to head north of the Canary Islands, but he actually ended up rowing through them instead, which was fine. And since then, the weather's been brilliant, and he's sort of now taking advantage of the trade winds, which should be taking him across to Barbados. So hopefully this bit of the journey is going to be a bit easier for him.
Have you got any ETA yet on when he hopes to make it?
No. I looked up the world record for a solo rower from the Canary Islands to Barbados, and that was 35 days. So I'm hoping for not much more than that, but we'll see. I think a lot does depend on the weather, really.
Well, he's a strong lad. I don't know how much practice he did. I know he was going out from time to time in Douglas when he acquired this thing. I mean, I couldn't believe when he showed me around this boat. Initially, I went, really? And then it just went off the boil. I never thought he was going to do it in the next few weeks. Amazing. On a note that he's doing it for some charities here on the Isle of Man, though, isn't he? He's trying to raise some money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. He thought that it was quite a fitting journey because his mental health will certainly be challenged. So he wanted to raise awareness of talking about mental health, and raise some money for Reach Isle of Man, but also the Manx Wildlife Trust, because he was really interested in their mindful walks. I think is it Ian Cooley that does the mindful walks? I think the Manx Wildlife Trust had sort of liaised with him, and that was something that Andy was really sort of keen to fund.
Okay, well, he's got a Just Giving page, so we'll put the details on there. And
Yeah.
I think there's also a website which has a tracker on him if you put in the right details, yeah?
Yeah, so he's got a website called reachintotheblue.com, and on that there's a link to a tracker which is through a satellite phone called a yellow brick, and you can see his position on there, and he also updates a blog from time to time on there, which you can sort of read his entries. Yeah.
So he's in a positive place at the minute. He feels good, and it's all going all right now.
Yeah, he's definitely been challenged, and he was. I think mentally it was challenging for him even before he set off, and he really has had a tough time. But at the moment he's got through all that, and now he'll be crossing the sort of the big expanse of the Atlantic, and I think he is in a really good place.
Good. Well, we hope maybe sometime we'll get a satellite link with him. Who knows? But it's been fascinating, and I'm sure you're dying to meet him. Will you be flying out to Barbados yourself, or wait till he comes back eventually?
I would absolutely love to, but at the moment you have to quarantine in your hotel room when you get to Barbados for 5 days, I think, and then get a test. So it's not ideal with sort of getting time off work and stuff, especially because I don't know when it's going to be.
And I presume Andy will have to do that himself, will he? When he makes land there, he'll have to go into quarantine. Or?
Well, I don't know. I have contacted the Barbados authorities, because there was a little section on their like website which details the quarantine detail, like what you have to do. And there was a section that said, "Do you have exceptional circumstances?" And I thought, well, yes, he does actually.
You're right. He hasn't been near anybody, has he?
No, exactly. He has been in isolation. So I've contacted them to ask, but I haven't heard back yet.